Okay. I was gonna do the little countdown shit. Um, I don't feel like it was necessary. I mean, what the hell are we counting down for? I don't think anybody was in the waiting room. But morning, Real Rap Coalition podcast. My name is Bob Celeste. Today I am bring you guys, a new video today. We're gonna be talking a little bit about some anime, which is crazy because we was talking for the longest while about like switching up the kind of media and shit that we do on here. But you know, finally I decided to pull the trigger and just make some content around anime. This isn't going to be particularly based on one anime. We're going to talk about a number of them today. My top 3 of 2023 so far, because there's still a lot of new seasons coming out, new shows coming out. So don't expect this to be an exhaustive list, and don't expect it to be a perfect list either. But before we get into that, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody out there for watching not only the show coverage, but as of course the movie coverage that we've been doing on the channel. We appreciate all the support that you guys have been sending, and it's only up from here. If you guys could do us a favor, just like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. Definitely run up the likes on those shorts. People seem to like shorts. We're living in the meme era, so that stuff is appreciated. So today, I want to take a little bit of time with y'all to talk about my top 3 anime in the 2023 season so far. Now, this list here, I know it's not perfect, and there's a lot of picks that a lot of people might think should be included. But nonetheless, though, I wanted to focus on the 3 that have made the biggest impact for me from a viewership perspective. Now, this season had a lot of intrigue, a lot of sort of tropes that we've seen before with some spins on it. And I do want to give just some shout outs to a few honorable mentions, right? One honorable mention, which I considered in my top 3, but it didn't quite make the cut in the final analysis, was Martial Magic and Muscles. Okay, if you want to look that one up there. Essentially, you got the main character born into a world of magic. He's not capable of using magic, but he's fucking strong as fuck. It's sort of like a One Punch Man-esque sort of series here. And the main character basically just bodies everybody that he interacts. He goes to a magic academy, is ostracized because he's different from the other students, but ultimately ends up ascending in importance, in rank, and in significance, just because he's sort of strong enough from his physical strength to like beat the shit out of people. Also, he's obsessed with cream puffs. This anime here has an amazing comedic sort of levity to it. Genuinely funny anime. Just really just like cringe, awkward, funny ass moments. Some amazing action sequences. Be kind of a hasty jump to say that it's as good as like One Punch Man in terms of the action, but definitely really good action from like a visual perspective. So if you guys haven't watched Martial Magic and Muscles yet, I definitely recommend that one because it is super entertaining and funny. Another honorable mention, we got to do Summon to Another World for the second time. It is part of the isekai genre, which is you have like somebody die or something happens and they leave the world that they're from and they end up in an alternate world. And they usually end up being like extremely important in that other world that they end up in. Okay. This anime here doesn't really build on that trope all too much, only in that it does a spin where the guy's actually already been to the alternate world before and was the hero in it, but he's returning again because it seems like the main antagonist from his last journey there somehow arises again and is causing problems in that world, so he's summoned one more time along with like classmates at his school. So that one there, I wasn't too hooked on. I thought that it did certain things good and certain things not too good. It's definitely a good looking anime, pretty well drawn. Animation, not really here or there for me. Soundtrack kind of forgettable, but ultimately Summon to Another World for the second time is a pretty good watch. So if you're looking for something to just, I don't know, watch while you're smoking or just eating some food, Summon to Another World for the second time, definitely a good pick. Another honorable mention for today is going to be Level 999, Yamada-kun. Is basically a female-centric kind of romance comedy. Okay, you take essentially young woman. She basically meets somebody who's like a pro gamer. Okay, this guy named Yamada. Okay. She doesn't know shit about games. She doesn't know shit about like the online world or whatever else. None of this shit is really like important to her or anything like that. But this chick is a college student, and she ends up having to break up with her boyfriend after he had an affair with a woman that he met playing an online game. So she was relieving her stress by playing an online game, and talks about all her breakup and stuff with a fucking random guy on a video game, right? But when she gets a makeover and she goes to like a sort of meetup to get back at her ex-boyfriend, um, she has an encounter with the guy from the online game, and so they start to sprout this sort of like kind of innocent, also cutesy, also awkward sort of romance. So that one there is pretty good, actually. I think if you guys like sort of like romance animes, I think Yamada-kun is one that like kind of makes the heart feel good. Some really nice like music in the anime. The animation's really good. I also like how there's a lot of pop culture allusions to things like gamer culture, which you don't see a lot of like competence and literacy in from like writers. It's increasing. And we've had like a sort of MMORPG inspired like stuff in anime for a long time, but this one kind of gets at like sort of what the population playing these games like kind of actually thinks and sounds like and stuff. So I think Yamada-kun, definitely a really strong pick, and I definitely recommend it. But unfortunately, it doesn't make the top 3 for this year for me. Okay. Lastly, just wanted to put this one here, and people might have an issue with me not putting this in the top 3. But nonetheless, a really good anime that you guys should watch is Kamikatsu: Working for God in a Godless World. Okay. Essentially, in Kamikatsu, you got basically this dude gets like killed by his parents. I don't really know how to make it any clearer than that, right? He has like a really religious father. And I guess in his village, like everybody's like worshiping this sort of god, right? And I guess in reverence of this god, his father decides to like throw him in a bucket, or in a barrel rather, and throw him into the ocean, and he dies. Okay. And when he's dying, he has the thought to himself, fuck God, like fuck a god. What's so good about a fucking god? You know, obviously so, because God's the reason why his parents are fucking sacrificing him and shit. But he basically hopes that he's born into a world where there are no gods. Okay. But he ends up nonetheless in a whole new world, kind of like an isekai plot, right? He doesn't have any particularly special powers or abilities or anything like that. He's just in a new world, okay? But he ends up like in a village of people and shit, and eventually habituating and coming to realize that things are wrong in the world, and that he has sort of goals for himself. But the best way that he's going to be able to do that essentially is by helping this dumbass little girl who's like really retarded, but nonetheless is actually a god, right? Like, but the way that she gets power is by people following her. It's a very interesting concept, and there's a lot of comedy built into this one. If you guys like sort of comedy, adventure-esque sort of animes, this one here would do it for you. I'll go a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to get out of the way sort of these honorable mentions, because there is some good stuff on screen this season. Of course, not including what was the one called with the fucking shit? What was that one called where dude was in like a fucking cabin or some shit? It'll come to me. I don't know. There's one about like a dude like being like warped to another world, and then like he ends up in like a cabin and has like a notes from like the old owner, and that you know, he's able to like train in this forest and he's like real strong, and then he comes back to real life and he's also really strong. Like it's a cool idea, but the shit fell flat. If you know what I'm talking about, don't watch that hoe. But nonetheless, let's get into my top 3. Okay, so in the number 3 place, an anime that I don't think has gotten enough traction and enough attention, I think from people, is My Home Hero. Okay. Now my Home Hero takes place in Japan. Just it kind of comes off like almost like a slice of life at first, but it's very deceiving, right? So you basically have a young female college student, and she's living alone in an apartment. She's dating a guy who ostensibly has like some sort of like gang affiliation and shit, right? So in dating this this woman, she arouses the fear or the concern from her overprotective father. Her father and him don't really speak all too much because she's away in the apartment, off at school and stuff like that, making friends, doing whatever. And he's off and he's working and stuff, so they don't have a lot of time to see each other. But he wants to check up on her and make sure everything is okay and stuff like that, right? He's looking for his daughter and stuff. But when he looks into it a little bit and he finds out that his daughter is actually involved with a guy who's affiliated with some dangerous people, right? That kind of sets him over the edge. And when he goes to investigate the situation, he goes over to his daughter's house. He ends up in a sticky situation after a member of this sort of group, namely her boyfriend, appears at the apartment. He's gotta like hide in the fucking closet and hold out. And he overhears like a phone conversation. Like he's on the phone with his boys and he's saying like, yeah, we're gonna use her for sex and then throw her to the wayside. And when she talks back to me, I'm gonna slap the shit out of her and stuff like that, right? The father sees that there's like signs of like hurt and like bruising and stuff like that on her as well and stuff. So it's like very a lot of emotions well up in him, and then he makes a decision that there's no turning back on. And so My Home Hero is the story of how a caring and protective, loving father ends up alongside his wife, badassly enough, right, facing pretty much a gang organization and keeping the fact of his association with the murder of this problematic boyfriend a secret the whole time. So My Home Hero is actually like a heart-stopping, cliffhanger-filled sort of drama, mystery, story, and it for me, it had to be in my top 3. I don't think there are any other animes that hit the level that it did in terms of just drama itself. The story was very well done. The characters all have like their own sort of identities. Nobody was really feeling useless on screen. And animation, beautiful. Writing, beautiful. Just the way that they went about, painting the sort of conflict, showing like the internal struggle that the characters on screen were having, showing the humanity of the antagonists despite them being like the representatives of the evil or the bad guys or whatever. It's just very well done anime. So for my number 3 place, I wanted to put My Home Hero. I highly recommend that you guys watch it. It is nothing short of the best drama that you're going to see this season for anime. All right. So for the number 2 place, we have to talk about the Swordsmith Village arc of Demon Slayer or Kimetsu no Yaiba, depending on how much of a fucking weeb you are. All right. So the reason why this one's number 2 for me is because, once again, Demon Slayer delivers, in my view, of being the best. Do we call him shonen? Yeah, I think it's like a shonen, but arguably the best of the AAA animes, once again, in delivering a revelation bringing, a envelope pushing, and a stellarly like animated performance, right? Demon Slayer sets us again in the Swordsmith Village. This is going to be in the aftermath of the Entertainment District arc, which, if anybody who watched like season 2 knows, was absolutely fantastic in the way that it looked, the story, the character progression that it presented us, and in this season they deliver again, but this time we're getting a little bit more elucidation on the world of Demon Slayer and kind of the world that these dudes live in, the state of affairs with respect to the antagonists, the demons that are out there, and we come to learn even more about just how Tanjiro's story is actually subsumed under the greater sort of purpose of the humans or the Demon Slayers versus demons sort of conflict of this world. So one thing I definitely have to say is that if you enjoyed the Entertainment District arc, you might have an issue with this season, only because we have to deal with a little bit of privation, a little bit of disarming of some of the lead protagonist characters. They're not going to be at the same level of brokenness or amazingness as you might remember from the season 2, because there are going to be some things in their way. But what we are going to learn a little bit about this season is the Hashira, the other members of the Demon Slayer core who haven't had as much exposure yet. We're going to get some insight as to what 2 other members of this Demon Slayer core are actually about, their powers, as well as their individual motivations for becoming Demon Slayers, which helps to color more sort of Tanjiro's destiny and like also his connection to the whole situation. We're going to learn about sort of the next steps in the development of Tanjiro, and what it's going to take for him to reach the next level. We get a little bit of that this season, and we get to see some of the most breathtaking like action and animation sequences this season once more. Even though the stakes aren't as say dramatic as the last season. We don't really get the terrifyingly like life or death really looks horrible, bad, like grave sort of like conclusion that we got in season 2. But in season 3, still nonetheless really beautiful, really intriguing. Lore is being built, and they're really crafting this sort of snowball that's going to avalanche into this next arc, because we come to learn some pretty important stuff. I definitely have to say that Tanjiro gains more and more of my respect every season. I go from thinking this dude is like an emotional bitch who's powerless and can't really do anything, but he always comes and overcomes the odds in ways that only he could. I'm really excited about the next season to come. And for anybody who hasn't caught up to Demon Slayer yet, because maybe they watched the Mugen Train thing and they thought that maybe after that it's like, what are they gonna fucking do? You know, I'm not too interested. Or maybe if they they gave up maybe season 1 because they weren't quite sure where the plot was gonna go and they were annoyed with some of the shonen tropes. I'm gonna say give this one a chance. Demon Slayer really delivered this season. I was going to bring up My Hero Academia, but because My Hero Academia has such high stakes, I'm going to commit to a rewatch because I really want to get at some of the aspects that they're building on from past seasons and stuff. I think while I think it's arguable whether or not Hero Academia is in the top 3, I think it's indisputable for me that Demon Slayer once again took the cake and showed the other animes that are competing for that top spot that they're not to be fucked with. Okay, so if you haven't watched Demon Slayer this season, I recommend watching this season, paying close attention to some of the information and the lore that's presented, because the stakes are getting only higher for this anime. So shout out Demon Slayer, shout out my dude Tanjiro. Now, my number 1 spot here for anime of the year so far, this is going to be a controversial one, and I'm even willing to admit that this one did not end as strongly as some of its contemporaries. Okay, but nonetheless, when we talk about art style, when we talk about inspiration, influence, literary illusion, right? Bringing in of elements from other forms of literature and media to bear in like one like cohesive expression. When I talk about things like action, when I talk about things like plot lines, drama, when I talk about things like romance, there's an anime that represents a sort of renaissance of anime itself in a lot of ways, which, although it's not complete story-wise yet, has put a duty onto other animes to keep up. And that anime, which is going to be in my number 1 spot, is going to be Hell's Paradise. Okay, Hell's Paradise follows the story of Gabimaru, who, among other killers, are sent to an island, essentially, where they're going to look for something called the Elixir of Life. If you drink this Elixir of Life, you have eternal life. Okay, you're immortal. You can't die. Okay, everybody who's sent to this island is a prisoner, but a prisoner who has some desire that they have for themselves, right? And for Gabimaru, his goal is clear. He had a wife at some point, allegedly. He wants to see his wife again, and that's the thing that drives him and motivates him. But at the same time, he's a cold-blooded, trained killer who knows how to shut his brain off and fight without any sort of emotional regard whatsoever. But nonetheless, this story takes us through sort of the learning about like this island. What are the inhabitants like? What is the ecology like? Where is the Elixir of Life? Does the Elixir of Life even exist? So on and so forth. And the action in this anime is not subpar. The action is incredible, badass. A lot of things happen. This anime deals with a lot of like death. So you're gonna expect that people are gonna get killed off this season. In the show, it has one of the best like musical jobs done, especially for their opening track. I think that they have one the best opening track of any of the other anime that are out right now. Their opening sequence is beautiful. Animation is lush. It literally feels like you're in another world watching this anime sometimes, how much effort they put into the way that it looks. I thought that the characters were intelligently done. a lot of them, they have like these backstories, right? But the backstories really do mold who they are, and it's like palpable in the way that they conduct themselves on screen. So I definitely think that of all the picks that we've gone over here, as well as that have come out in like the last few years, Hell's Paradise is an anime that has set itself apart while also owing to some of the tropes of things that have followed before. But it at the same time has so many moving themes that are going on that are trying to be painted that it's almost a work of genius, if you will, sort of the ground that they've laid out for future work. The season's over for Hell's Paradise. And if you want a spoiler, I can't give it to you. I can't spoil this one for you. But I will say that you'll watch this season here. You'll be satisfied with what you saw. Okay? More than satisfied. And you're going to be begging the studio to give us another season of it. Okay? It's that good. Hell's Paradise is going to hold down the number one spot here. Now, there might be some, critiques. People talk about Hell's Paradise a little bit about how maybe certain tropes are like played. We do have like a main character who's supposed to be like a heartless badass, but over time becomes like somewhat sensitized to like emotionality and stuff like that. All I'll say is that this won't take away from the protagonist for you. It won't make things unbelievable or lose in believability in some way. I don't think it's the case at all. I think that Gabimaru is definitely an intriguing protagonist, and the sort of theme or the motif, cultural commentary, if you will, that they're trying to address in this anime is one that, if you pay enough attention, it definitely speaks volumes. Okay. Hell's Paradise is going to hold on to the number one spot for me here. So just to go over again, the top three that we're going to have for the anime of the 2023 season so far is going to be My Home Hero, followed by Demon Slayer, and then Hell's Paradise. All right. So again, thank you guys for just coming in and listening to a few thoughts here. We're going to do some more expanded exposition on some of these numbers. We're thinking about getting into the Demon Slayer arc itself and like trying to break that down a little bit more. Hell's Paradise definitely needs its own treatment. And obviously My Hero Academia is going to get its own treatment because there was definitely a lot going on there. And we just need to run it again because there's sort of a lot of moving parts in that one that we wanted to go over. But if you want my top three recommendations, you got them here, folks. Definitely make sure you catch up to Demon Slayer. Check out My Home Hero because it watches like a Netflix original drama. It's that fucking good. And Hell's Paradise. Hell's Paradise is an anime that's taking the genre and really the format itself to new highs. So that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been an episode or a special edition of the Real Rap Coalition podcast. We'll be back with more anime content in the future. Please like, please comment, and please subscribe. We'll be coming with more content shortly. Thank you very much for watching, and we are out.